I've tried a lot of expandable, stretch me out, telescopic mobile controllers on this channel, and my favorite since it was released has been the GameSir G8 Galileo. But now there's a new version that's the exact same price, but has a plus in the name, and what the hell that plus actually adds, the math here, is two big changes, or two major new features, I guess I should say, and then a couple of nuanced small changes from the original. Let's take a look at the G8 Plus and find out if it's my new recommendation in the mobile segment. Let's get it. A quick disclaimer to my audience, the Stallions and Stallionettes, this controller was sent for review, but this is going to be an honest, comprehensive review. I haven't been paid or told to say or not say anything about it. GameSir doesn't get an early preview, and the thoughts in this video are 100% my own. If there's any cons, shortcomings, or areas of improvement, you're going to hear about it, so these companies make better products over time. So quite simply, the two main features with this new model that the previous did not have is going to be battery and Bluetooth. But with the addition of those two features, this controller is now compatible with a whole slew of new devices, primarily tablets, larger phones, foldable phones, phones that didn't have the USB-C port lining up just right because this doesn't use a USB-C hardwired connection. It uses its onboard battery and then Bluetooth to connect with larger devices. As long as you can stretch out the physical frame, measurements on screen here for the maximum size that you can stuff a device, then it's gonna fit. But furthermore than that, one of the things I mentioned in my initial review I thought would be really valuable to do with the G8, considering it's a very comfortable controller, almost like a normal standard full-size console controller, is if you could use it on PC, either wired or wireless, as it had zero connectivity. It's a straight up mobile controller. As we're here, you can use this as a PC gamepad, which is really cool to have a $80 Hall effect, two rear button controller that you can also take on the go and use with a phone or tablet, but then use at home with consoles like the Switch or your PC even, which is really cool. So boom, that right there is the difference between the Plus and the original. But what's really awesome here, a little shock and awe factor, is the fact that the MSRP is still $80. And instead of just being able to use with USB-C phones, that's another limitation. What if you have a pre-Gen 15 iPhone, which still used the stupid ass Thunderbolt port, which should have never been a thing? Because the G8 focused on iPhone 15 users. There's also Android support as well. And you could also use software on your phone, such as Steam Link or PS Remote Play, but that wasn't Bluetooth. But now tablets, also larger phones and foldables, something to note. And then these two buckaroos on the side, these are the big ones over here, Switch and PC. Now this controller is using GameSir's newest in-house modules. They are Hall effect. They are rated for 5 million cycles. Now, keep in mind that these aren't completely stick drift proof. The manufacturer realizes that by giving it a rating of 5 million cycles, at which point one of these little recentering springs, which you can see here, can lose tension on you over time. It's very unlikely. It might never happen for you, but it is a possibility. The manufacturer's keeping it real with you, keeping it real, which you hardly ever see. They usually just say drift proof, never drift, or the TB Stealth Ultra from Turtle Beach, a $200 wireless Xbox Pro controller, says right on the palm grip, anti-drift. You can I had nothing clever to say, but that's silly. Toggleable trigger mode, don't you get too excited because this is not a physical trigger lock or stop system. It's a software engaged one. And then this should be absolutely changed because these are not haptic vibration motors. There's three types of vibration when it comes to controllers. There's typical rumble force motors, which are a counterweighted stack where you have a small stack of weights over here and then a little bit larger one over here. They spin around in a circle at different speeds, different RPMs, but it really can only produce a couple of different effects and can only get to a certain peak strength. Now, haptic feedback can get stronger vibration, but also a lot more accurate, can reproduce thousands of different effects in your hand, and is usually quite a bit quieter inside the palm grip, less rattly. The only downside of that is haptic feedback motors usually more power hungry. These look like just straight up rumble force motors, so I don't know why they're saying console level haptic feedback. Another big difference from the Plus versus the, I guess you could call it the minus, the original version, is that there was no 6-axis gyro. This sucker does have motion control, which you can use on Switch, bitch, and PC to bang their knee right back to the lobby. Now, this is a feature that I really thought was cool on the OG, but now it's taken further by the fact that you can now swap the face buttons. And this is just cosmetic. It's not going to be the actual switches or actuators, but rather just switching the A and B buttons from that Nintendo layout to the PlayStation and Xbox layout. Doesn't really matter, considering you don't need to look down at your controller to know what button button you're pressing, but it is nice to have that option, I guess. There were swappable thumbstick caps on the original G8, and they look identical on the Plus. That should be anti-skid or anti-slip or something. You got this anti-slid textured surface, and one of the features that allows for increased compatibility with bigger devices is going to be this space here for cameras, because you have that bulge with 3, 4 lenses with these Pro phones. These were your connection modes on the original G8. These are your connection modes on the Bluetooth joint, which is awesome. You do have G-Touch, which is for the GameSir app, which we'll test in this video. You've got switch mode, which I like that that's red, considering that's the Nintendo beam color. Makes sense. DS4 over here, which is going to be for iOS, is blue, and then Android is this piss yellow over here, and that's got to be Android 8.0 or newer. And then right here, you see this gentleman holding a controller plugged into a laptop, something you could not do with the G8. We tried in the original review. It had no compatibility whatsoever. At the bottom of the G8 page, it's just this happy guy. As we're over here, they have an actual useful breakdown of all the tech specs and key features. As for the packaging, included accessories, the outer box has a little bit of black and red branding. Some of the key notable features on the back of the box, if you wanted to pause and read. Little holographic trim with their key phrase or slogan, beyond boundless, where possibilities know no limits. It's kind of a no-no to use those two words back to back like that. Lifts up from the front, the swappable thumbstick caps held in this little plastic tray. Then you have your documentation and USB-C cable, extra accessories in this box, little cockle-doodle-doo logo. How do you do? Pretty damn good with this controller, I'd say. Foam rings protecting your thumbstick caps for shipping, and a couple of cutouts to get your controller out. Inside that box, included accessories-wise, you are going to have this holographic sticker that's been shipping with most GameSir controllers. You have this huge instruction manual that opens up bigger than that television, and it does have multiple languages. What I recommend doing is folding it to your native tongue. When you scan this QR code, it doesn't take you to your language. It doesn't even take you to the right controller. It just takes you to the GameSir landing page. Actually, I've never seen this before, but when you scan that QR code, it just says page not found, which I was going to say is kind of acceptable if the controller isn't out yet or anything. But this controller's been purchasable on Amazon since July 1st. GameSir might want to edit that QR code path to make sure it leads to something, preferably the actual instruction manual color would be cool. In PDF format for this specific controller. That'd be so nice. You don't really see that. Usually when there's QR code instruction manuals and it's from a company that has several controller models in the lineup, it just takes you to the landing page for all of them. And you have to pick, oh, I have this controller, and then scroll down to support and software. You should just scan the QR code and it should take you right where you want to go. You do have this 6-foot rubber USB-C cable. No dust covers on the USB-A or C end. That's GameSir's actual catchphrase, just in game. So I guess that was just some motivational words on the other box. They do have plugs for their socials if you want to rant about how awesome your controller is on social media, or if you have problems, they do have a support contact page. And it's always worth checking, but there's nothing underneath this plastic tray. These are the 3 identical included thumbstick caps from the original G8, which is not a bad thing by any means, because I ranted and raved about all of these options. This was reminiscent of the GameCube because it's a tiny little niplet, but I just prefer the pre-installed mid-rise hybrids as they are really grippy, and they do have KontrolFreeks compatibility. I'm probably going to lose this instruction manual, but here's the different modes of connectivity. There's a ton of them. Different Bluetooth modes, Android, and the app is unfortunately the GameSir app, not GameSir Nexus, the real app. It's the mobile phone app. As for the cosmetics or appearance, the OG has this light gray thing going on with the plum face buttons, very reminiscent of the SNES, and then over here, kind of a charcoal gray. It's not black. This is black. Well, actually, that's dirty. Hasn't been dusted. That's black. This is kind of a dark charcoal, and the face buttons follow suit with white lettering. Looks are totally subjective, but I actually prefer the looks on the OG quite a bit. I think this one looks better. As for the ergonomics or comfort, the palm grips are absolutely identical, so I thought maybe the stippling around backside would be different. There is no rubber or silicone back here, but it's just plastic stippling that does feel identical to the original, not grippier or slicker. It's the same. Comfort was good on the G8. This is the same thing, so it's still good. As for build quality, I do only have one cause for concern. That's a little audible note whenever I shake the controller like this. You get a little sound and also a little bit of, you feel some flex right here where the telescopic arm expands. And then on the right side, you're hearing a little wiggle from the face buttons. That's kind of expected. They're going to jiggle on just about any controller if you do that to it. But this right here. For comparison, this is the Scuff Nomad, which is smaller, but it also does feel more buttoned down in the telescopic arm region. That's the face buttons wiggling around, not the telescopic arm. As for the D-pad or direction buttons, nothing's touted on the landing page as being changed. The plastics do feel identical. Actuation, force and pressure, distance, all that is identical. The only thing I noted is it does sound different, a little bit quieter and a lower frequency, a little bit more secure. Cut that background music, DJ. The D-pad does sound a little bit better. I liked it originally. Still like it here. Face buttons, good size and spacing. They're typical membrane switches, so what you'd find in a stock full-size controller, not mechanical or clicky. But they are completely serviceable, and I've had no issues mashing the hell out of them on my G8, so I'm sure the Plus is going to be just fine as well. And as for the accessory button suite, I do like that GameSir had the plus and minus buttons, which are going to be your in-game buttons that you're using more frequently. One for popping up a map, and one for pausing the game usually, or going to your settings menu. And then the switch system button, or whatever platform you're on, is down here, the home button, I should call it, as well as your controller specific mode button, where you can do things like rebind those two rear buttons. That's down here, since you're not going to be doing that very often. The only complaint is minus can be a little bit finicky to hit if you have a heightened stick cap on the left, maybe for playing racing games or something, but that's a problem on a lot of other controllers too. The 3.5mm headphone jack has been removed, which was kind of a nice feature, is that you could kind of use this as a headphone adapter for iPhones, because you pair it through the USB-C port and then you can plug in a headset. So you kind of also got an additional product with an iPhone adapter for headsets. But the USB-C over here is for pass-through, and the USB-C over here is for charging, because there's an onboard battery. Just like the original, you get a fingernail up underneath each one of those palm grips, you pop them up there magnetized, see for the magnets in there, and you do have some swappable options. This sucker is very reminiscent of the GameCube controller. Very grippy though, love that. The stock included caps are fantastic and do work with the following KontrolFreeks. Ow, my knee. Interesting note on the G8 OG, not the Plus, these have black housing. And if you have the G8 and the Plus, you can go sicko mode and mix match the face plates. That's a thumbnail right there. Even though these are Hall Effect Thumbstick modules, and not put undue pressure on them, I do recommend popping on KontrolFreeks once you've removed the base, like this. Switch Pro caps fit perfectly. PlayStation 4 and 5 caps fit very nicely as well. Xbox, you can jam them on there, but it feels like it could damage the cap, and I wouldn't recommend it. These are the smallest in diameter, so just go with the Switch or PS4 and 5 caps. You know what? Teardown or disassembly not necessary, because this is really all I was interested in seeing. This is the only component that I personally, in my audience, is going to be interested in seeing, and that is what Hall Effect Thumbstick modules are used on this controller. These are GameSir's in-house joints, which you would see that GameSir branding on the side of the plastic housing if this section wasn't covering it. There is typical recentering springs in there. However, I have heard no complaints about these suckers losing tension, but in essence they could. That is a possibility, and that is probably why GameSir keeps it real and does rate these for 5 million cycles, because that's around the time that these recentering springs could be losing tension on you. Over here on the PC, connected via USB-C cable, and this sucker was immediately just working, plug and play, defaulted itself to X input, the common protocol for PC. And now we can do some testing, as we see in Gamepad Tester. These Thumbstick modules freakishly responsive, and I do mean freakishly responsive, more so than other Hall Effect Thumbstick modules on the market, such as the K-Silvers, which are used in a lot of third-party controllers. No out-of-the-box stick drift, as you would expect, also very low in the circularity test, as these Thumbstick modules are. The circular or radial ones were lower number better here. Keep in mind, if they were square, rectangular, not the circular ones, there could be a higher number here, but as long as everything looks very even, there's really no cause for concern. Bumpers and triggers, I know, is a section I usually shoot over here, different microphone, different camera angle and whatnot, but I forgot about it, so we're touching on it now. They're identical. Plastics used, as well as the trigger feel, actuation, resistance, travel, all that good stuff. They're identical. Liked them on the G8. It's the same over here. As for the rear buttons, I ranted and raved about how much I liked them on the G8, and they are identical over here on the Plus, which is fantastic. They're very similar to the full-size GameSir controllers, the G7. The T4 Khaled's buttons are bigger than this, but these are very similar to the G7. Not obnoxiously loud, good actuation force, damn near flush with the rear shell, so it's super comfortable, rebindable on the fly. These are great. Wish there was another set down here by the ring fingers, making it a 4 rear button, but you don't ever see that in mobile controllers, so hey, this is great. The app seems like an absolute stink fest. I have it installed on my phone. It had 2.5 stars out of, well, 5 would be the maximum. And I'm going to screen share so you can get the waft up your nostrils as well. Okay, add a peripheral. The G8 Plus. Scanning. Yes. Okay, that actually paired super fast. Seamlessly, I didn't have to do anything weird, hold down buttons or anything. And it does show the left and right palm grip are charging currently. Firmware update is the first thing I want to do. No upgrades available. I'm already maxed out. Oh, product manual. For real? No, not for real. There is no product manual there. Controller testing is going to be a diagnostic mode, whereas I press buttons on the controller. Nothing happens, but it should. In essence, we've seen these before in so many software programs, and you can even do this with all stock Xbox controllers from the Xbox Accessories application pre-installed on the consoles. It's not responsive, but right here should be a little diagnostic tool. Now, clicking on the picture of the product, the controller itself, a couple things I want to show you. First of all is the button settings. This is where you're going to switch between the Xbox and Switch layout to match the physical buttons that you swapped. I didn't see those in the box. It's a feature I would never personally use, but I might have chucked those out because I did not see those in the box, and that's okay. You can also make clicking down the sticks completely null and void if you accidentally click those bad boys. And if you fucked anything up, there is return to default in the top right corner. Trigger settings over here is going to be those little trigger dead zones, as well as the hair trigger mode, software, not an actual lever you turn on and off. That'd be awesome. And that really is all there is to show you. Hey, we got the English instruction manual. Okay, nice. No color, but this is better than the physical one. You can pinch and zoom and whatnot. There's the application. In a nutshell, your nut's been cracked. You want to hear some Bluetooth and battery specs that'll make your bazoingas boing? The G8 has 1,000 milliamp hours of battery total. That's 500 in each palm grip. I haven't been able to deplete the controller yet. I did charge it up to 100 when I received it, as I do every time I get a new controller. And the Plus also uses Bluetooth 5.3 technology, which can achieve latency below 0.013 seconds on Switch and below 0.026 seconds on iOS and Androids. Freakishly low, my little scary movie hand here, my child, freakishly low latency, the native platforms, Switch and phone. I don't really think anybody is going to be picking this controller up primarily for PC. Nobody's hunting out this controller to buy it for PC. It's something that if you haven't, you already bought it for a mobile controller on the go. You might occasionally use it on PC, but the fact that it has a Bluetooth card that ripe 5.3, that's nice. For a point of reference, the PlayStation 5 console uses Bluetooth 5.1 to communicate console to controller. And the Switch Pro controller, and I don't know where it got its name because there's no Pro controller features, uses Bluetooth 3.0. This controller also has gyro support, but it was kind of a disappointment to see that there was no controllability, no sliders or customization within the software app, but it did feel good on the Switch platform, which was surprising. I didn't expect it to feel as good as it did. No amiibo support though. And then X input test, because we're now able to test the input lag or delay, which is pretty absurd that we're able to do that on a mobile controller. It does have a 500 hertz stock clock for 2 milliseconds of input lag or delay when going wired to the PC. That is an important note. That is very respectable, very solid, but we are going to try and overclock it, try and double that, or not double it, half it, double the polling rate, and concurrently halving our input lag or delay, as in we're due for a good lay with this controller. In this drop down in the Lord of Mice overclocking software, select all. Go ahead and make this a little bit bigger because you're in your 30s now and you don't have the eyes of an eagle anymore. All right, let's go ahead and expand the child names, which are the names of the controllers. Having a hard time finding my guy here. This might be it. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to unplug it. I went up here because, you know, regular controllers would be up here. It's on the bottom. Yep, that's the one. Unplug yet again. Replug. 1,000 hertz for an estimated 1 milliseconds. Let's see if that worked for us. Excuse me, I was clearing the phlegm out of my flim. Yes, it did work. She's overclocked to 1,000 higgities. Interesting. Not very consistent. Some big old stutters in there. 4, 3. Interesting. So I'm not getting to 1,000 hertz, and it does make sense. This is averaging out these 1,000 inputs or samples that I'm requesting the PC to get. There's only 4 outliers. We're going to ignore these numbers here, but as you can see throughout the entire string, there's some big old stutters or sputters. It's not really holding 1,000 hertz. That's why it's showing an average of 700. So it is susceptible to being overclocked. It does lower the speeds, but it's not supremely consistent. As for converter or adapter support, which I'm going to be doing a big blowout video, you're going to be so blown out by the end of it, as I'm going to be comparing all the popular converters or adapters, allowing you to use controllers on any platform you want. And luckily I was able to get the Plus working on the Xbox and PlayStation 5 to play PS4 games and navigate the console, that is, completely wirelessly, which was a really interesting experience to play on consoles with a mobile telescopic snap and clip controller. And I think that'd be a great alternative for gamers with large hands, as this is really spaced out because it's meant to have a cell phone or tablet in between the 2 palm grips. If you've got a big old bunch of bananas or bratwurst for hands, you should maybe check out using one of these controllers with a converter or adapter on your Xbox or PlayStation. So the verdict is simple. The G8 has been my favorite telescopic mobile controller since it released. It's a real beast of a backbone clone, but now that you have compatibility with PC, Switch, and as we've seen here, Xbox and PlayStation with the use of converters or adapters, this is a hell of a mo value, considering GameSir has kept the price at $80, and that's with adding Bluetooth, and not just some shitty ass Bluetooth technology, but 5.3 5.3, which I quoted earlier, some of the low latency that you can get on Switch and Android via Bluetooth 5.3. The controller is also susceptible to being overclocked, which is incredible. Granted, it was a little sporadic, but it did lower the speeds. There are those Hall Effect thumbstick modules, which are rated for 5 million cycles. Around that time, you could get stick drift, but you might not ever because they are Hall Effect. And overall, if you like the G8, and you probably did because it's a hell of a controller, the Plus is certainly an addition to that controller. It's an enhancement, an improvement, same price, absolutely gets my recommendation. It is linked in the description below. Drop in the comments section below what you think of this thing and what you Stallions are playing right now, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Much like the back of the TV, I've got plugs for all of my socials down there in the description below. And your wallet will greatly thank you if you check the description, because there are exclusive discounts on a ton of products, including controllers, KontrolFreeks, keyboards, mouse pads, clothes, and energy drinks. And keep in mind that you, the viewer, keep this channel running. The more Stallions and Stallionettes trotting around the stable, the better, so mollywop that subscribe button like it owes you money, and we'll have the same amount of fun tomorrow.